Guests here in Mendrisio, guest industrial partners here in Mendrisio at our manufacture in Switzerland. Welcome to all the people who are following us from home. I'm Guido Benedini, the CEO of Watchangels, and tonight we have a great night. Tonight we're going to present and write together the second chapter in the CB Sustainable Tool Watches story, the first 100% sustainable watch. And I have the pleasure to present you tonight Cedric Bellon, the founder of CB Watches, and Alessandro Recalcati, who will moderate the evening. Alessandro is the president of the ATIO, the Swiss Ticino Watchmaking Association. So, Alessandro, I leave
Thank you. Thank you, Guido. Hello to everybody. And it's really a pleasure for me to be here. I'm just a few words for introducing myself. I'm Alessandro Recalcati, president of the ATIO, the Ticino Swiss Made Association, which represent all the industrial companies in Ticino and the ecosystem in the southern part of Switzerland. Our region, our beautiful region Ticino, is one of the three major watchmaking region in Switzerland, in particular specialized in manufacture. What we are proud also to say is that many of the famous Swiss brands, they probably use our industrial engine, and we contribute to the success of them. This is the reason that one of the reasons why I'm so happy to be here, and also I thank you very much the Angels team to invite here for this live event, because sustainability concept in watch production is one of the key areas where our association is active and try to establish good practices. I now have the pleasure to introduce a special guest, a watch interpreter with a clear sustainable mission in mind. And I'm particularly happy to be here and that he decided to come to our region here in Ticino to make and to produce and to develop this beautiful product. I'm happy to introduce now the founder of CB Watch, Cedric Bellon. Cedric is a famous designer, very famous designer, probably one of the few which is living in the countryside in northern France, instead of coming from the design capitals of Switzerland or Europe. Since many years, Cedric believes in a sustainable watch industry, and 2 years ago, considering that nothing was happening in Switzerland, or he was not really well supported on this idea of sustainability product, he decided to take over the project and create the first CB01, the first sustainable tool watch. And he proved with the pragmatic approach we can really create a virtuous watch industry. And so let me spend a few more words. Good evening, Cedric. It's really a pleasure and honor to have you here, and you decided to be here at the Watch and Angel Manufacture.
Good evening, Alessandro. My pleasure. I'm happy to be here among you. And especially after 3 very special years, the 2 last were very special. I haven't been here for 3 years now, and I'm happy to share this moment with you and to meet finally, for real, some of the people who are following the project from the beginning. I want to say also that I'm especially happy that this event takes place here at the manufacturer of my partners, because mainly the watches are becoming real in this kind of place. I mean, there are behind the scene of the brands, there are people, skills, talents who are working a lot to make our watches real. So sometimes it's a good thing, I think, when the spotlights are on the suppliers and not only on the glamorous logos of the brand. So
Listen, Cedric,
Yeah.
but and so based on what you said, yes, but the spot is important also be on the person who had the idea. That's great. But and listen, but how do you feel? How do you feel more a watchmaker or more a watch designer?
actually, I'm a watch designer. I'm not a watchmaker, so I'm not skilled to make my own watch. Until in the end, I met Watchangels. In fact, I started first 18 years ago a first sustainable watch project, but it wasn't possible at that time to develop it because the watch industry and the luxury industry in general wasn't concerned by that kind of topics. I want to say one thing which is very important here. I'm not saying that I want to make sustainable watches. There is no sustainable watches. But with Watchangels, we are thinking about how to make a watch production more sustainable.
But and do you think how can you define your sustainable watches versus what is currently the watch traditional production? So how much are you sustainable compared to the traditional way of making watches?
Well, I don't want to answer that game of the competition here because it's a very tricky one. But first, we had the opportunity to use. I think the CB Watches project is the first watchmaking project to use a certified 100% stainless steel. And there are people here from ThyssenKrupp who can say that. So the pure steel is a 100% stainless steel, recycled stainless steel. But using recycled materials isn't enough for us to say that we are making watch production more sustainable. It is far more complex and far more difficult. So we had a global approach, and not only with the material, to achieve some of our goals in terms of environment.
So what you are saying is that it's not enough to use sustainable material to make a product, a watch sustainable.
From my part, I don't think so.
And how did you approach that? So
Well,
maybe with some example you can describe a little bit more how you approach that.
We tried to have a very pragmatic approach, a very scientific one, in fact. We tried to rethink the way to source and transform all the materials and the components that are involved in the watch production. So, in fact, the main principle was simple. It was to quantify the care we put on every single component to decrease the carbon footprint of this production. The goal was to rate clearly the, let's say, sustainability score of each component, then in the end of the whole watch.
And so what you are meaning that it is not only philosophical, the way to say that your product is sustainable,
No.
so it's something pragmatic.
Yes, we didn't want to remain in the narrative only. It's not only storytelling. We wanted to be able to prove with numbers that you can see on the screen here. I encourage you to download, by the way, the sustainability report that is downloadable on the Watchangels website. So everything is more described in detail. Basically, each component has a sustainability score depending on where it comes from, how it was transformed, and things like this.
Also including transportation,
yes,
and all the activities around, and so not only components, but
yes.
also the project process that is around the component.
Yes, you're right. Transportation is one of the key points of the global impact. When you imagine all the items or the components or the materials traveling all around the world with a heavy price to pay in terms of environment. We analyze all these criteria, all these digits in detail, And we reached, according to that calculation method, a score of 87% a sustainability score, which is twice approximately the sustainability score, of a traditionally Swiss-made equivalent watch in the industry. So it's twice more. 100% sustainable watch cannot be reached, as I told it at the beginning, but 87 is quite already a good score, I think.
Wow, yeah, absolutely. 2 times more sustainable than what is the traditional production way of the traditional watch industry. It's really a great success, great achievement, I think.
I think so. We will try to improve these numbers in the coming.
But I think it's already a good achievement.
Yes.
And also the idea and the fact
better.
that you can download all the information from the site, and so that it can be proved the fact that you are over there. It's great.
We want to be transparent on that point because well, to be honest, we cannot compete with what major brands are doing on that kind of topics, and mainly they use recycled materials, and they have a nice story to tell. We don't have the same level of human and financial resources, so we have to make something different. We need to be transparent, to be open-sourced about everything we do in-house in order to make that production more sustainable.
Yeah, what I think is great also how you use the word the transparency, because many times you say that, and really I think is a great way to transmit how this watch is being produced.
Sustainability it will be one of the biggest trends because it's for real, it's a trend now. But I don't want to use it as a trend. I want to prove that we worked hard and in detail and with a lot of care to make really things concrete.
And listen, what about cost? Because normally when we talk about sustainable product, there are always an issue, a discussion about the fact that it costs more due to the fact is the product is sustainable. Is that correct? And why, if it's like that?
Well, probably because, first of all, when an industry has to question its own methods, its own processes, industrial processes, it's a cultural effort, which is an intellectual effort, which is key. So basically, we have to rethink, to reinvent a lot of processes, and it's a new way of thinking. So that's probably why, and due also to the material, the special materials we use, this is an extra cost, let's say, in the development and the production of the watch. But basically, we had 3 main guidelines: what, where, and how. So the circularity, the proximity, and the transformation of the materials and the components. Which means, sorry, I need my notes a little bit. The sourcing of the materials, and the components, are they recycled, recyclable? The proximity, so basically if everything is made local. And the transformation, so machining, what about the energy we use and we spend to do that? And what about all the chemicals? What about the transport? So all these things are summarized under our 3 main guidelines in order to make this production more sustainable.
So this can be very well represented by this graph.
Exactly.
And so this I think is extremely interesting, in which we have circularity, proximity, and transformation.
Exactly what I just described. Yes.
Does this perfectly represent the fact that it's not enough to have circularity on product, but we need to have proximity and transformation?
Yes, and everything.
Sure this is the best area you can find all of 3.
Yes,
Ticino.
and you're right. And everything is intricated. I will take an example. The dial of the watch is the best example to illustrate the method we use to produce watch. At first, I simply asked myself, what could I do in terms of design to make already the creation a bit more sustainable? I simply asked to my partners, would you be able to make a dial out of the same materials as the case, so 100% recycled stainless steel? They told me at first, we will try. And so they tried, and they achieved great results. So in fact, it allowed many things. First, we could produce dial in-house, because here we can mainly produce case components. Now we became, through CB Watches, a dial supplier, a dial producer. Second, stainless steel doesn't need any chemical or galvanic treatment like dial production requires usually. So we remove the transport between the suppliers and the manufacturer. We make the dials in-house, and we don't use any ink because there is no stamps, no prints. Everything is engraved on the dial. And we removed all the energy and the chemicals used traditionally in the galvanic processes. So every single component of the watch and every single step of the production benefits of the same care. We had the same care for each component.
Yeah, that's. I saw before some of the parts, in particular from the dial, coming really from the bar. That was really impressive. But really, listen, Cedric, in a so complex project, how you could reconcile sustainability, price, and beauty?
In fact, well, the design is based on the sustainable guidelines. In fact, the fact to use raw steel to make a dial simply started to create a new design language for this project. So my purpose was never to create a specific sustainable design language. I'm not skilled to do that, and it's not the purpose of the project. However, when you have some constraints when you design an item, it's better to use them as some assets than constraints. Then you are more free to create and to imagine what the product will look like. So I love hand tools, you know. These are very simple tools, very simple items. I mean, what more simple than a pencil, a knife, a hammer, an axe? You know, I mean, each of these objects of this product claims the function, the single and the simple functions they are made for. So I designed a simple watch, a raw watch. So I used a skin diver case, which was a very popular kind of case in the 60s, 70s. And the material itself gave, with this simple design and very robust, made to age well, something simple, and which is, I think, well, the watches seems to be appreciated by people. So in the end, the watch is a kind of timeless watch, because for me, sustainable doesn't mean we have to analyze what is sustainability, but also something which is already to age well and to be durable, in the sense that it can be used for decades without being boring. I mean, the skin diver watches are still very popular because they still look very cool, aren't they?
No, it's beautiful to stay here, listen to you with your passion, describing some example of how you work around so many details on a beautiful watch like that, and for sure the simplicity is also one of the elements who drives
less is better.
Idea. Yeah,
less is better. What's the motto of the project?
Yes. Perfectly fitting on this project. Really,
I hope so.
And so, from my side, really, thank you very much for all these interesting insights. And I'm convinced that really you were able, but probably will be our auditors here will say that you combine, don't worry, that you define the really perfect trade-off between the beauty and the sustainability, which is at the end probably the more critical aspects, because anyway you have to provide a nice piece, a beauty piece.
If we want to see the watch industry becoming, let's say, a bit more sustainable, more virtuous in terms of environmental impact, well, we have in the end to sell watches. So the watches are, we try to make affordable watches also, because these are for the, not for the few, but for the many. And well, that's pretty, that's it in the end. We hope that the new one, the GMT, which is the second chapter, will follow the same path.
I'm sure. What I say that repeat, the most important thing is listen your passion. And so your idea behind this fantastic project, that is something not coming just in the last few months, but as you said before, already from your history, from your ground, for your, so that's really great. And so what can I say? I can thank you, Cedric, for what you have done for your product, but in general for the watch industry, because I think you define a path that probably can be used or can be followed by many other brands that probably today they try to enter in this sustainable game, but not with the same approach. And so 360 degrees approach that you had on this project.
Thank you, Alessandro. I guess there will be many different approaches for sustainability issues. But I have to say that the watch industry will have to face the sustainability topics. Just because, and we can see it currently, the industry will have to face the increasing cost of energy, for example, the scarcity of materials. We know it with stainless steel, but this will be also with different kind of materials. So this is not only a trend, this is something the watch industry will have to face seriously.
Yeah, I'm sure, and convinced on what you said, probably not in the watch industry. That's probably the trend that the entire world will be forced to follow. But I'm also sure that as you develop this project, many others are working on other product category, and so I'm sure the entire industry will change in that direction.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Now I think that everybody is very curious to see the next step, and so enter a little bit more in the discussion, presenting what is the new creation, and so what we call the CB01 GMT.
Yes, so
would you like to talk a bit?
Yes, a bit more. Well, people know it already because we communicated a lot the last weeks, past weeks, on the social media, which were, by the way, one of the biggest challenge for me, because I'm not used to. I'm a back office guy, you know. I'm not used to work and show my face and work publicly like this. So social media, it was really an issue for me. But I have to say that the audience grew up gently and slowly but surely. So you already probably have seen these pictures on the social medias. Well, in fact, we had this opportunity to use an unused stock of GMT movements. Some are chronometer certified, by the way. And it was the perfect complication, the perfect function for my project, because basically CB watches are until now tool watches. So a GMT for a tool watch is perfect. It's also, I think, a useful complication. I mean, in a globalized world, we all have some friends, family, or work partners living abroad, far from where we are living. So it's a very useful complication. And so a repurposed movement, a useful complication. And I wanted to offer a little bit more than in terms of design, the raw dials we had on the first edition. So we simply add a color, one color, black one. It's a simple coating, but it was the most sustainable way to keep the dial production in-house and to offer a color. And we also reworked all the case construction. It is way more simple. There is only two parts in order to keep that sustainability score the highest possible.
Yeah, always in the vision to make that simpler is better.
Exactly. Less is better, simpler is better. So we played with colors, a bit of colors, finishes, and in order to offer that new face and that
listen,
new
what
function.
about strap?
And yes, the straps, of course.
Which is beautiful, really.
These handsome straps are made by hand by Marco Lazzaroni, who is here tonight, just
Thank
around
you,
the corner
Marco.
nearby the factory, with naturally tanned leathers. And I invite you to check out his website, Vicus Pele.
Okay, Cedric.
Thank you, Alessandro.
Thank you very much. First, to invite me here was really a pleasure for me, really talking with you. And what I said, and I think everybody felt your passion on that. And I'm sure you find the right place, the right team, the right company that could support you in this beautiful, really.
Thank
trip.
you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I want to ask to add a little more words. It's for many years that I try on my private life to apply some sustainable principles, methods, and all the people here tonight allowed me to practice also to do my job in a better way, let's say according to my own environmental guidelines. So I want to thank the Watchangels, my industrial partners, because they are great and they allowed this project to raise. I want also to thank ThyssenKrupp, represented tonight by Daniel and Claudia. Thank you very much for letting us use pure steel for the first time in the watchmaking industry. And also, of course, the community and the people here tonight that simply allowed me to start my project. So thanks a lot. And thank you, Marco, also for your handsome straps. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cedric, also from our side, thank you very much. We just thought that we made you work better, but you made us work better as well because you challenged us. We had to create a special supply chain for your watch. So thank you very much. And now I think the great moment has arrived. And we're going to put the sale live. So I suggest we do it together. So we have our iPad here. So for all the people at home, so the sale starts now.
Great.